My bio dad recruited his girlfriend's sister and ex-cellmates to stalk and terrorize my family, so I recorded everything and sent them all to hell. A year later, his lawyer called saying Dad just wants to make things right. I hated my stepdad for loving me. Growing up, my bio dad was practically absent in my life. He never brought me to school, didn't know my birthday, sometimes got me and my mom's names mixed up, but to me, it was normal. I thought every dad let their daughters do whatever they wanted. So when I turned 16 years old, he got me a gift. And that was an arrest for his involvement with gang crime. He ended up getting 10 years with no possibility of parole. And a year later, my mom let her boyfriend Oswaldo and his stepdaughter Maya move in with us. Oswaldo was everything my dad wasn't. He woke up at 6 every morning to make breakfast. He checked my homework and knew what classes I was taking. And to me, love meant letting your child do whatever they wanted and never being in the picture. So I hated every second of his parenting, so much so that I did what any regular teenager would do in that situation. I bitched to my dad about him every day, spending an hour writing letters to his prison every night. As for my mom, she was never home enough to see what was going on. Every month, I'd read letters from my dad, teasing me how I needed to be loyal. I clung to his letters like they were golden grail. So when I failed 3 classes during junior year or came home hammered from a party, I'd only tell my mom, and she'd do what my bio dad used to do and just ignore me. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that I learned this wasn't a normal reaction. The only person who I actually wanted to talk to about it was my stepsister Maya. She had green-eyed, tan skin, the type to spend all her free time in nature. She just made me feel safe. But one night, when I was in the middle of writing a letter to my dad, she read over my shoulder. Didn't say anything, just chuckled. You know, my mom used to tell me the same stuff about him, she said one night. Well, she always said he was controlling and trying to buy my love with homework help. I stood up and had to stop myself from slapping her across the face. I told her that he was different. She pulled out her phone and showed me old emails from her mom. The manipulation was identical to my dad's letters. Same phrases about staying strong and not letting anyone come between them. Same guilt trips about loyalty. My heart twisted, but just nodded, pretending like my world wasn't being turned upside down. Because after my brief conversation with Oswaldo, I began to wondering things. How my dad's letters always mentioned needing money for protection. How he couldn't remember what grade I was in, but remembered exactly when Oswaldo's payday was. The truth hit me during a particularly bad fight with Oswaldo. I'd skipped school to visit Dad and he'd caught me. Instead of yelling, he just looked disappointed and said he'd have to tell Mom. I screamed at him that he wasn't my real dad and never would be. I know, he said quietly, but I'm the one who's here. My dad's next letter asked me to tell his lawyer that Oswaldo was abusing me, said it would help his appeal and we could be together sooner. That's when I finally saw it clearly. He didn't want me. He wanted a character witness. I denied it and decided to give Oswaldo a chance, but I didn't want that. One way or another, he wanted revenge. On me and Oswaldo. The next morning, Maya's mother showed up at our door. I'd never met her before, but the moment I saw her face, I knew something was wrong. She had the same green eyes as Maya, but they were cold and calculating. Maya froze when she saw her, gripping my arm so tight it hurt. Where's Oswaldo? Her mother demanded, pushing past us into the house. He's at work, Maya said quietly. Of course he is. Always working, never around when it matters. She turned to me. You must be the other kid. Your dad talks about you. My stomach dropped. You know my dad? She smiled, but it wasn't friendly. We've been corresponding. He's very concerned about what's happening here. I watched her move through our house like she owned it, opening drawers and cabinets. Maya followed her, closing everything behind her. Mom, what are you doing here? Getting what's mine. Your father owes me money from our divorce settlement. $20,000 he's been hiding. That's not true, Maya said. The divorce was finalized years ago. Her mother spun around. He's been lying to you, baby, just like he lies to everyone. But don't worry, I have a plan to get what we deserve. Over the next few days, things escalated quickly. Maya's mother kept showing up unannounced, always when Oswaldo was at work. She'd corner Maya in her room, whispering things I couldn't hear. Maya started acting different, jumpy and quiet, avoiding eye contact with everyone. I found out why when I overheard a phone conversation. Maya's mother was on speaker, and I pressed my ear against Maya's door. Just tell them he touches you inappropriately, her mother said. It's simple. You say it happened, they investigate, and he'll pay anything to make it go away. I can't do that, Maya whispered. It's not true. Truth doesn't matter, baby. What matters is getting what we're owed. I burst into the room. Maya's mother's voice cut off immediately. Maya looked at me with tears streaming down her face. She's been doing this for weeks, Maya said, recording me, trying to get me to say things about Dad that aren't true. That night, I couldn't write my letter to my bio dad. Instead, I stared at all his previous letters, really reading them for the first time. The manipulation was so clear now. Every letter mentioned money, mentioned Oswaldo's job, mentioned how much he probably had saved. My dad didn't care about me. He cared about revenge and money. Things got worse when my bio dad's sister showed up. Aunt Patricia, who I'd met maybe twice in my life, suddenly wanted to be involved. She took me out for ice cream, acting all concerned. Your father's worried about you, she said. He thinks Oswaldo might be dangerous. Oswaldo's not dangerous, I said. But if he was, you'd tell someone, right? Like if he ever hurt you or Maya? I realized what she was doing. They were all in on it, trying to build some case against Oswaldo. But I played dumb, nodded along, and went home. That's when the phone calls started. Oswaldo's work began receiving threatening calls. They'd hang up when anyone answered, but the number showed up repeatedly. Oswaldo looked exhausted, stressed in a way I'd never seen him. Someone's trying to get me fired, he told my mom one night. They keep calling my boss, saying things about me. My mom, for once, was actually home to witness this. She held his hand across the kitchen table. We'll figure it out, she said. But Maya's mother had other plans. I woke up at 3 in the morning to the sound of our garage door opening. I crept downstairs and saw her in Oswaldo's car, placing something under the seat. I grabbed my phone and started recording. She must have sensed me because she turned around. Go back to bed, kid. What are you doing? Insurance, she said. Sometimes you need leverage to get what's yours. I kept recording as she explained how she'd planted substances in Oswaldo's car, how she'd call the police tomorrow with an anonymous tip, how Oswaldo would pay anything to avoid jail time. My dad put you up to this, I said. She laughed. Your dad's a smart man. He knows how to get things done, even from prison. The next day was Maya's school science fair. We all went to support her, trying to act normal despite everything happening. That's when the cousin showed up. I recognized him from family photos my dad had sent. He was big, intimidating, and he walked straight up to Oswaldo. You got something that belongs to my family, he said. Oswaldo stood his ground. I don't know what you're talking about. The money you owe. My cousin says you've been stealing from his daughter. Parents and kids started staring. Maya grabbed my hand, both of us shaking. That's when my mom stepped forward. She'd been watching from across the gym and saw everything. Call the police, she told me quietly. Now, the cousin brought 2 friends the next time. They showed up at our house, banging on the door, demanding money. Maya and I were home alone. I called 911 while Maya talked to them through the door, stalling. My dad's not here, she kept saying. I don't know about any money. Open the door, kid. We just want to talk. The police arrived just as Maya's mother pulled up. She started yelling at the men, not realizing the police were already there. You idiots! I told you to wait until I handled things my way. The plan was to get him to pay, not scare the kids. The officers heard everything. They arrested all 4 of them on the spot. Maya's mother for extortion and breaking and entering. The 3 men for criminal threats and trespassing. The investigation revealed everything. My dad's commissary account showed large deposits from Maya's mother. They'd been planning this for months, even before my dad's arrest. He'd hidden money somewhere and promised her half if she helped frame Oswaldo. Maya and I testified at the restraining order hearing. We played the recordings, showed the letters, explained everything. The judge granted permanent restraining orders against everyone involved. My dad's involvement in the conspiracy added years to his sentence. His appeal was denied, and he faced new charges for conspiracy and extortion from prison. His letters stopped coming after that. Maya's mother was sentenced to 2 years for her crimes. The cousin and his friends got 6 months each. Aunt Patricia was banned from contacting us. A month later, I asked Oswaldo something I'd been thinking about. Would you consider adopting me? He hugged me tighter than my bio dad ever had. I'd be honored. My mom cried when we told her. Happy tears for once. The adoption went through 6 months later. Maya officially became my sister, not just my stepsister. We spent a lot of time in therapy, Maya and I, working through what our biological parents had put us through, learning what real love looked like. It wasn't letting us do whatever we wanted. It was showing up, making breakfast, checking homework, and being there even when we pushed back. Oswaldo never brought up how I'd treated him those first few months, never held it against me. He just kept showing up, kept loving us, kept being the father neither of us had before. Maya and I grew closer through it all. We'd both survived manipulative parents who saw us as tools rather than children. We helped each other heal, helped each other trust again. The house felt peaceful after that. No more threatening letters, no more surprise visits, no more schemes and manipulation, just a regular family figuring things out together. I started calling Oswaldo Dad the day the adoption was finalized. It felt right. He'd earned the title through actions, not blood, and that made it mean so much more. The peace didn't last. 3 months after the adoption, I came home from school to find a strange car in our driveway. My stomach clenched as I recognized the woman stepping out, Alexandra, my bio dad's girlfriend from before his arrest. She'd visited him religiously in prison, and now she stood on our lawn with a folder in her hand. Maya was already home, watching from the window. We exchanged worried glances as Alexandra marched to our front door. I opened it before she could knock. Your father needs to speak with you, she said, holding out a prepaid phone. He has something important to tell you about Oswaldo. I stared at the phone. He's not supposed to contact me. There's a restraining order. This is different. It's about your safety. She pushed the phone toward me. Just 5 minutes, for your own good. Maya appeared beside me. She needs to leave, she said firmly. Now. Alexandra's eyes narrowed. You're the other one. The daughter of that thief Oswaldo. He stole more than money from your mother, you know. He stole her whole life savings. Get off our property, I said. But Alexandra was already walking back to her car, leaving the phone on our doorstep. We didn't touch it. Instead, I called Mom at work and told her everything. She came home immediately, and we turned the phone over to the police. They traced several calls from it to the prison. My bio dad had been using other inmates' phone privileges again, circumventing the no-contact order. The next week, things got stranger. Oswaldo started receiving packages at work with no return address. Inside were photos of our house, Maya and me walking to school, Mom's car in the parking lot at her job. Each photo had a number written on the back, countdown style. Bate, Wanbade, Yete. We filed police reports, but without direct threats, they said there wasn't much they could do. Oswaldo installed security cameras and changed all our locks. Maya and I started walking to school together, never alone. The countdown reached 3 when I noticed the man following us. He stayed half a block behind, always turning when we turned. Maya spotted him too. We ducked into a coffee shop and called Oswaldo. He picked us up within minutes, but the man had vanished. That night, we got our first real break. Maya had been going through her mom's old emails, looking for any clues about who might be helping my bio dad. She found a name, Ben McBenjamin, her mom's cousin who'd been in and out of jail for fraud. A quick search showed he'd been released 2 months ago. That's who's been following us, Maya said, showing me his mugshot. Same build, same face. We gave the information to the police, but Ben had already disappeared. No current address, no job, no trail. Just like the countdown, he'd vanished at 2. The next morning, number 1 arrived, but this time it wasn't a photo. It was a key, attached to a note. Oswaldo knows what this opens. He has 24 hours to return what he stole, or everyone finds out what he really did. Oswaldo went pale when he saw the key. He sat us all down at the kitchen table, hands shaking. Before I met your mother, he said slowly, I was married to Maya's mom. When we divorced, she claimed I hid assets. It wasn't true, but she hired someone to plant evidence. This key. It was to a safety deposit box that never existed. She tried to frame me for hiding money there. So she's still trying to use it against you? Mom asked. The box never existed, but the key is real. If someone planted evidence now, made it look like I've been hiding money all these years. He trailed off. We had 24 hours. Oswaldo went to the bank to confirm the box didn't exist, getting documentation. Mom took time off work to be with us. Maya and I stayed home from school, doors locked, cameras recording. At hour 20, Oswaldo's phone rang. The voice was disguised, electronic. Time's running out. 50,000 in cash, or the evidence goes to your employer, the IRS, and child services. There is no evidence, Oswaldo said. The box doesn't exist. It does now. The line went dead. Oswaldo immediately called the bank. Somehow, a safety deposit box had been opened in his name that morning, using forged documents. Security footage showed a man matching Ben McBenjamin's description. We raced to the bank with the police. The box contained staged evidence, fake financial documents, photos of expensive items Oswaldo had never owned, receipts for hidden accounts. It was an elaborate frame job, but convincing enough to cause serious problems. The bank manager reviewed their records. The box had been paid for with a money order traced back to the prison commissary system. My bio dad's fingerprints were all over this. That night, while we were dealing with the police reports, our security cameras caught movement. Ben McBenjamin was in our backyard, trying to jimmy the lock on Oswaldo's car. I called 911 while Maya filmed from the window, but Ben heard something and ran. disappearing over the back fence before police arrived. In his hurry, he dropped something, a burner phone. The phone had one contact, A.P. Recent texts discussed the plan, payment amounts, and something about phase 2. A.P. had to be Alexandra or Aunt Patricia, maybe both. Mom took charge. She called a family meeting and laid out our options. We could wait for the next attack, or we could be proactive. We chose proactive. Maya had an idea. Her mom had always been careless with passwords, using the same one for everything. Maya still remembered it. We spent the night going through her mom's old accounts, looking for connections. We found them. Emails between Maya's mom and Alexandra dating back years. They'd met at a support group for women with incarcerated partners. They'd bonded over their hatred of Oswaldo, who they blamed for their situations. The emails detailed various schemes, all focused on getting money from him. More disturbing were recent messages. Even from prison, Maya's mom was orchestrating things. She'd connected Alexandra with Ben, promising him a cut of whatever they extracted from Oswaldo. The plan was escalating because they were running out of time. My bio dad was being transferred to a higher security facility where communication would be nearly impossible. We compiled everything and took it to the police. Finally, they had enough to act. Warrants were issued for Alexandra and Ben. Aunt Patricia was brought in for questioning, but they'd vanished. Alexandra's apartment was empty, cleaned out. Ben's last known address was abandoned. Even Aunt Patricia had suddenly decided to visit family out of state. For a week, nothing happened. We stayed vigilant, but life slowly returned to normal. Maya and I went back to school. Oswaldo returned to work. Mom kept the security company on speed dial. Then Maya noticed something odd. Her mom's old social media account, dormant for years, had a new login. Someone was accessing it, reading old messages. Maya set up alerts and watched. The account started sending messages to numbers we didn't recognize. Coded language about meeting locations and payment drops. We screenshot everything and forwarded it to the detective handling our case. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. One of Oswaldo's co-workers mentioned seeing Alexandra at a motel outside town. She'd been asking about Oswaldo's schedule, pretending to be an old friend. Police set up surveillance at the motel. Within days, they spotted both Alexandra and Ben. They were arrested trying to leave with fake IDs and a car full of forged documents about Oswaldo. Under interrogation, Alexandra broke first. She revealed the whole network, how my bio dad had been running schemes from prison for years, using girlfriends and relatives as proxies. The money from Maya's mom had funded operations. Aunt Patricia had been the coordinator, keeping everyone connected. Ben was harder to crack, but evidence from his phone sealed it. He'd been recording conversations, planning to blackmail everyone involved if things went south. His recordings included my bio dad explicitly planning the frame job, Alexandra discussing the stalking, and Aunt Patricia coordinating payments. The investigation expanded. Prison officials found my bio dad had been using a contraband cell phone hidden in his cell. He'd been running a whole operation, not just against us, but against multiple families of former associates who'd wronged him. Maya's mom was transferred to solitary confinement pending new charges. Her commissary records showed she'd been receiving payments from unknown sources, then sending them to Alexandra and Ben. The paper trail was extensive. During all this, Oswaldo never wavered. He kept making breakfast, checking homework, being present. He hired a lawyer to ensure our protection and worked with prosecutors to build an airtight case. The trial preparations were exhausting. Maya and I had to give detailed statements about everything we'd witnessed. We turned over all our recordings, photos, and documentation. The prosecutor said we'd built half their case for them with our evidence gathering. More people came forward. Other families my bio dad had targeted, other women Alexandra had tried to recruit, other relatives Aunt Patricia had approached. The network was bigger than anyone realized. My bio dad tried one last manipulation. He had another inmate call me, pretending to be a lawyer. The man said my bio dad would recant everything, take full blame, if I would just visit him one time. He wanted to apologize and make things right. I recognized the manipulation immediately. He didn't want to apologize. He wanted to get me alone, work his influence, try to turn me against Oswaldo one more time. I reported the call, and the inmate got additional charges for impersonating an attorney. The stress was affecting everyone. Mom developed insomnia, constantly checking locks and cameras. Maya had nightmares about her mom escaping prison. Oswaldo threw himself into work, trying to maintain normalcy. I found myself angry all the time, furious at how my bio dad had turned so many people into weapons against us. Family therapy became our lifeline. Twice a week, we sat in a circle and talked through everything. The therapist helped us see how we'd been targeted specifically because we were good people. Oswaldo's kindness, Mom's trust, Maya's and my vulnerability to parental manipulation. Slowly, we learned to stop blaming ourselves. The therapist explained how my bio dad was a master manipulator, how he'd groomed me from childhood to be his pawn, how Maya's mom had done the same to her, how breaking free was an act of incredible strength. The legal process dragged on, hearings, depositions, meetings with prosecutors. Each one brought new revelations. Ben had been promised a share of a fictional hidden fortune my bio dad claimed to have. Alexandra believed my bio dad would marry her when he got out. Aunt Patricia thought she was protecting family honor. They'd all been manipulated too, in their way. But unlike Maya and me, they'd chosen to hurt others instead of breaking free. We had to move temporarily when our address was leaked online by one of my bio dad's supporters. Oswaldo's employer provided corporate housing while we looked for a new place. Starting over felt both exhausting and liberating. Maya and I grew even closer through it all. We were the only ones who truly understood what the other had been through. We developed our own language of looks and gestures, ways to support each other without words during the hardest moments. The investigation uncovered financial crimes going back years. My bio dad had been running loan sharking operations from prison, using the money to fund his revenge schemes. Maya's mom had been collecting disability benefits while working under the table, sending the extra money to support the conspiracy. Each revelation felt like another betrayal. These people who were supposed to love us had spent years plotting to destroy the one stable family we'd found. They'd rather see us miserable than happy without them. Oswaldo's strength amazed me. Despite everything, the stalking, threats, frame jobs, and constant stress, he never suggested we'd be better off without him. He never pulled away or shut down. He just kept being our dad, steady and reliable and there. Mom surprised me too. The woman who'd been absent so much during my childhood became a fierce protector. She took charge of our security, coordinated with lawyers, and made sure Maya and I felt safe. She'd finally found something worth fighting for. The prosecutor called with updates. More arrests had been made. People on the periphery who'd helped with small tasks tasks, thinking they were harmless favors. The conspiracy had tentacles everywhere, but they were finally cutting them all off. We learned my bio dad had been planning this since before his arrest. He'd known he was going down for the gang crimes and had started setting up his revenge network in advance. Every letter he'd sent me had been calculated, building toward this moment when he'd activate his plans. The realization that I'd never actually known my father hit hard. The man I'd defended and mourned had never existed. He was a character my bio dad had played, a manipulation designed to keep me loyal and useful. Maya faced the same reckoning with her mom. The woman who'd raised her, who she'd loved despite the flaws, had been grooming her as a weapon against Oswaldo for years. Every shared moment had been tainted by ulterior motives. We grieved together for the parents we thought we had. It was like experiencing their deaths, except worse because they'd chosen to be this way. They were alive, but lost to us, consumed by hatred and greed. The new house felt like a fresh start. Oswaldo let us pick our rooms and decorate however we wanted. Maya chose nature themes, bringing the outdoors in. I went for cozy and safe, lots of soft textures and warm colors. We installed a state-of-the-art security system, but tried not to let it dominate our lives. The cameras and alarms were there, but we focused on making the house a home, not a fortress. School became a refuge. Nobody there knew the full story, and we kept it that way. Maya threw herself into environmental club activities. I joined the creative writing group, finding outlet for all the emotions I couldn't otherwise express. Oswaldo and Mom set up college funds for both of us, making sure our futures couldn't be derailed by the legal costs. They'd already spent thousands on lawyers and security, but they prioritized our education above everything. The trial date approached. The prosecutor warned us it would be brutal. Defense attorneys would try to paint us as liars, Oswaldo as the real villain, my bio dad and Maya's mom as victims of a corrupt system. We prepared meticulously. The prosecutor coached us on staying calm, sticking to facts, not letting emotional manipulation derail our testimony. We practiced until we could recite events without breaking down. More evidence surfaced. Phone records showed my bio dad had made over 300 unauthorized calls from prison, each one violating regulations. Financial forensics revealed he'd moved nearly $100,000 through various channels to fund his operations. Alexandra's apartment search had yielded a treasure trove, detailed plans, photos of our family, schedules of our movements. She'd been studying us for months, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Ben's criminal history showed a pattern of escalation. What started as simple fraud had grown to stalking, threats, and attempted extortion. He was a dangerous person my bio dad had deliberately unleashed on us. Aunt Patricia tried to cut a deal, offering to testify against everyone else for immunity, but her involvement was too deep. She'd recruited at least 3 other people into the conspiracy, promising them cuts of the imaginary fortune. The prosecutor explained how unusual our case was. Most prison-based conspiracies fell apart quickly, but my bio dad's combination of charisma, planning, and willing accomplices had created something more sinister and lasting. We found out Maya's mom had been promising other inmates that Oswaldo had millions hidden away. She'd been building her own network, planning to continue the scheme even if my bio dad's efforts failed. The layers of deception seemed endless. Every person involved had been lying to others, creating webs of false promises and fictional rewards. They'd all been scamming each other while trying to scam us. The prosecutor's final witness list arrived, and I recognized half the names. People from my bio dad's old neighborhood, former associates who'd refused to participate in his schemes. Maya and I would testify last, the culmination of months of evidence. 2 days before the trial, Oswaldo's car wouldn't start. The mechanic found sugar in the gas tank and cut brake lines. Security footage from our neighbor's camera showed a figure in dark clothing near our driveway at 3 a.m., but the face was obscured. We borrowed Mom's car to get to the courthouse for our final prep session. The prosecutor walked us through what to expect, how defense attorneys might try to rattle us. Maya gripped my hand under the table, both of us determined to see this through. That night, our doorbell rang at midnight. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize holding an envelope. She left it on the doorstep and drove away. Inside was a single photo, Maya and me at school that day, taken from across the street. On the back, last chance to reconsider. Oswaldo called the detective immediately. They ran the plates from our security footage and traced the car to a rental agency. The woman who'd rented it used a fake ID, but surveillance showed her clearly. Another of my bio dad's ex-girlfriends, someone who'd visited him recently in prison. The morning of the trial, we left early, taking separate cars as a precaution. Oswaldo drove with Mom, while Maya and I went with the victim's advocate assigned to our case. The courthouse was packed with reporters who'd gotten wind of the conspiracy's scope. My bio dad entered in shackles, orange jumpsuit stark against the courtroom wood. He caught my eye and smiled, that same manipulative smile from my childhood. I looked away, focusing on the prosecutor's opening statement. The evidence was overwhelming. Phone records, financial transactions, recorded conversations, forged documents. Each piece built the case methodically. Maya's mom was brought in separately, also in custody orange. She wouldn't look at Maya at all. Alexandra testified first, trying to minimize her role. But the prosecutor had her recorded conversations with my bio dad, discussing the stalking, the intimidation tactics, the planted evidence. Her story fell apart under cross-examination. Ben McBenjamin took the stand next, claiming he'd been coerced. The prosecutor played his own recordings where he bragged about scaring us, about how easy it would be to frame Oswaldo. The jury's faces hardened as they listened. Aunt Patricia surprised everyone by breaking down completely. She admitted everything, recruiting people, coordinating payments, passing messages between conspirators. She claimed my bio dad had threatened her too, but phone records showed her eager participation. Other witnesses testified about my bio dad's prison operations, guards who'd found contraband phones, inmates who'd been pressured to make calls for him, visitors who'd carried messages. The network's scope became clearer with each testimony. Maya took the stand before me. She spoke clearly about her mother's manipulation, the pressure to lie about Oswaldo, the recordings she'd made. Defense attorneys tried to paint her as a confused child, but she held firm, presenting facts without embellishment. My turn came on day 3. I walked to the stand, passing my bio dad without looking at him. The prosecutor led me through the timeline, the letters, the manipulation, discovering the conspiracy, gathering evidence. I kept my voice steady, focusing on facts. The defense attorney tried to twist things, suggesting I'd misunderstood my father's intentions, that Oswaldo had turned me against him. I pulled out one of my bio dad's letters, reading his own words, asking me to lie about abuse. The attorney had no response. During a recess, I overheard 2 jurors talking quietly. They couldn't believe believe parents would do this to their own children. That's when I knew we'd won, not just legally, but in showing the truth about who my bio dad really was. The prosecution's closing argument was devastating. They laid out the conspiracy piece by piece, showing how my bio dad had orchestrated everything from his cell, using people's greed and anger as weapons against our family. The defense tried to argue entrapment, claiming law enforcement had encouraged the conspiracy to continue, but the evidence predated any police involvement. They shifted to attacking Oswaldo's character, but had nothing substantial. Jury deliberation took less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts for everyone involved. My bio dad got an additional 15 years. Maya's mom got 5 more. Alexandra and Ben each got 3 to 5. Aunt Patricia got 2 years. My bio dad demanded to address the court before sentencing. He launched into a rambling speech about being a victim, about Oswaldo stealing his family. The judge cut him off, noting his complete lack of remorse or accountability. After the verdicts, we met with the prosecutor one last time. She thanked us for our courage, said our evidence gathering had made the case airtight. More importantly, we'd exposed a network that had been targeting other families too. The drive home was quiet. We'd won, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the end of something that never should have started. Maya reached over and squeezed my hand, understanding without words. That night, Oswaldo made his special pancakes for dinner. Breakfast for dinner was our celebration tradition. Nobody mentioned the trial or the verdicts. We just ate together, finally free from the shadow that had hung over us for so long. School felt different the next day. Some kids had seen news coverage, but most didn't know the details. Maya and I went back to being regular students, not victims or witnesses. It was exactly what we needed. A week later, a letter arrived from my bio dad's lawyer. He was appealing, claiming ineffective counsel. Oswaldo handled it calmly, forwarding it to our attorney. We wouldn't let him drag us back into his web. Maya's mom tried reaching out through a prison counselor, claiming she wanted to apologize. Maya declined. Some bridges were too burned to rebuild, and that was okay. We'd learned the difference between forgiveness and self-protection. The financial aftermath took months to sort out. Insurance covered some of our security costs, but legal fees had drained savings. Oswaldo worked overtime without complaint, making sure our college funds stayed intact. I found my bio dad's letters one day while packing for our permanent move back to our original house. I started to throw them away, then stopped. They were evidence of how far I'd come, from a manipulated child to someone who could recognize and resist exploitation. Maya and I started a support group at school for kids with incarcerated parents, not to bash our parents, but to help others recognize manipulation and understand that love shouldn't come with conditions or schemes attached. The house felt different when we moved back, safer somehow, knowing the threat was truly gone. We kept some security measures but didn't let fear rule our lives. Oswaldo removed the cameras from inside, keeping only the exterior ones. Our first family dinner in the old house was quiet but comfortable. Mom had learned to cook while we were away, surprising us with a decent lasagna. We laughed when Oswaldo offered to take over halfway through preparation. I wrote one final letter to my bio dad, though I never sent it. In it, I explained how his actions had actually brought our family closer, how his schemes had failed because real love doesn't need manipulation or control. I burned it in the backyard, watching the smoke disappear. Maya planted a garden where we'd burned the letter. She said it was about growth from ashes, beauty from pain. I helped her choose plants that would bloom at different times, ensuring color throughout the year. The adoption anniversary approached, the day Oswaldo had officially become my dad. We decided to celebrate it like a birthday, acknowledging the day our real family began. Mom planned a small party, just us and a few close friends. That morning, Oswaldo made breakfast as always, but this time, he let me help, teaching me his pancake technique. It was a small thing, but it meant everything. The passing down of traditions in a real family. Maya gave me a photo album she'd been working on, pictures of us over the past year, building our new life. No traces of the people who'd tried to tear us apart, just images of the family we'd chosen to be. The party was perfect in its simplicity. No drama, no surprises, no manipulations, just people who loved each other celebrating that love. Oswaldo got emotional during the toast, saying we'd given him more than he'd ever given us. As I watched my family that night, Mom laughing at Oswaldo's dad jokes, Maya rolling her eyes but smiling, I realized something. My bio dad had been wrong about everything, but especially about love. Real love didn't mean letting someone do whatever they wanted. It meant showing up, staying present, and protecting each other from those who would do harm. It meant choosing each other every single day, not through blood or obligation, but through actions and commitment. That we'd survived the worst thing our biological parents could throw at us, and we'd come out stronger, not unscathed, but unbroken, and that was enough.